Morpeth's 96-year-old wooden and steel bridge fell victim to last Sunday's gale force winds. Nearby power lines fell across the frame, causing a fire to break out.
One of the major trusses has been burnt and does need to be repaired.
RTA crews have been working 12-hour shifts to fix the problem. Today, a 20-tonne steel Bailey bridge was put in place.
And that's a temporary bridge which will actually take the load from the main truss so that we can repair that, and also lets light traffic through as well.
For the past week, traffic has been diverted through Raymond Terrace and Maitland, adding an extra half hour on some trips. Don Fogarty, the local publican, says businesses have suffered.
The takings are down and the people are just not about. They're not spending their money like everyone's expecting to spend it.
The RTA says while one lane of the bridge will be open on Sunday, it will be another week before the traffic flow returns to normal. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
It's one of Australia's earliest memorials, erected after the end of World War I. The infantry soldier was unveiled in 1919 in memory of more than 400 Sydney men who died while defending their country in the Great War. 2 years ago, the Wallara Council in Sydney offered the piece to the Infantry Museum at the Lone Pine Barracks in Singleton, hoping to ensure the future of the historic work of art. The offer was enthusiastically accepted, and so began the arduous process of restoring the statue, this financed through extensive community fundraising.
It's a tremendous feeling. We've at last got the statue and it will be the centrepiece of our heritage gallery. And this fellow in the ready position with fixed bayonet epitomises what the infantryman's all about. And in World War I, this is just the way they were. Rifle and bayonet.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Minister for Planning Robert Webster announced the in-principle approval this afternoon. He said that after an exhaustive 3-month assessment, it was found the plant would be a benefit to Curry, generating more than 50 jobs and boosting the local economy. However, approval is subject to 5 strict environmental conditions, the most important being the issue of solid waste and its disposal. There's also to be no importation of dross from overseas, a comprehensive monitoring system must be established, and there will be strict controls on transport routes and methods, which will be audited annually. For the local action group, it's a devastating decision.
I feel that the people of Curry do not deserve this insult. To propose a plant of this toxic type so close to our houses is criminal.
Already plans are underway to counter the approval with tomorrow's rally and possible court action. However, there are those who welcome the move, including the local Chamber of Commerce and Mayor Marie Callaghan.
It addresses every conceivable problem there is. I have never seen anything as strict as this. I can't imagine any problems.
Developer Garba Simonian said this afternoon that he was pleased with the minister's decision. However, he labelled the conditions as tough. He believed, though, his company Illumino Australia could comply with the guidelines, and if all went according to plan, the Curry facility should begin in January. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
The Minister was the guest speaker at an industrial relations conference at Salamander near Nelson Bay, and he was keen to talk up his recent announcement of the incorporation of the Coal Industry Tribunal. It will be implemented next year, bringing the coal industry under the wing of Australia's mainstream industrial relations system for the first time.
In the area of bargain making, in the area of anti-discrimination provisions, which will now apply for the first time in the coal industry, I think this is a far-reaching and a very beneficial reform.
But there are fears giants of the industry could exploit the system.
Oh look, I think CRA will always be up to mischief, and we've seen plenty of that with their calculated attempts to de-unionise their workforce. But certainly the mainstreaming of the CIT will not provide any comfort for them.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Michael Johnson has re-signed for his 14th season with the Falcons, while Marty McLean will also remain with Newcastle. Discussions are ongoing with Grant Kruger, with Newcastle's playing staff to become clearer next week following Monday's free agent listing. Meantime, the 10th running of the Lake Macquarie Triathlon will take place this Sunday morning. This year's event is part of the state titles and has attracted an elite field, as many will be using the race in preparation for the World Championships in New Zealand in 2 weeks. In motorsport, the summer program at the Newcastle Motordrome continues tomorrow night, with sprint cars and street stockers both in action. The Walls End Motorcycle Club will also host the Trackmaster meeting at the Newcastle Showground tomorrow night.
England won the toss and elected to bat. New South Wales speedster Wayne Holdsworth gave the tourists some early stick, but skipper and opener Atherton took no notice and went for his shots. Only some brilliant New South Wales fielding kept the Blues in touch. Fill-in opener keeper Stephen Rhodes never looked comfortable. He was the first to go, caught behind off Shane Lee for 4. England was playing the 4-day game at 1-day pace, hitting the first 50 in 57 minutes, but Atherton was going too hard and paid for it with a mistimed shot. No time for New South Wales to get big-headed. Hick took to the bowling, hitting a bag full of boundaries, but on 73, Kershula tricked him with pace and Robertson took an easy catch. Former skipper Gatting went in the same over for a duck, Mark Waugh showing he's one of the game's best fieldsmen. The tourists started to slow the pace, Thorpe and Crawley settling in. Thorpe eventually bowled by McNamara for 67. 5 for 251 and the English fans were smiling. Crawley went on to hit a careful 71. Play continues tomorrow. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Our Pompey too good for Long Tan, which led for most of the race, giving Hanlon his second Sandown Cup winner. His first was with R1 in 1980. Our Pompey returned $12 for the win, while favourite De Remus finished third, paying $1.20. The Max Lees trained Nasabiti finishing midfield. To Sydney now, and the Parramatta Leagues Club handicap over 1,300 metres. Miss Kariba returned $4.40 for the win, Mercy second, while there were insufficient starters for a third dividend. The awards were held at Belmont's 16-footers with the Wallabies' Phil Kearns and Knights captain Mark Sargent special guests. Andrews, now based in Western Australia, was represented by her mother. After becoming a regular in the national team last year, Shelley was Australia's leading goal scorer in their World Cup triumph in Ireland. Martin Phillips was honoured with the Junior Sportsperson Award, having been selected in Australian karate teams and winning both state and national titles. Surf Life Savings' Terry Watts was named the Sports Administrator of the Year, while Christine Shelton received the Disabled Sports Scholarship. Meantime, Gary Rush overcame early engine problems to win last night's Castrol Classic at the Winfield Motordrome ahead of race favourite Robert Farr. Farr, who had already won the Tui Stars Dash, led the race before Rush made his move with 8 laps remaining. The only casualty last night, Mick Turner flipping his pro-built modified, remarkably repairing it to win the mobile handicap final.
A teacher all her working life at various centres throughout New South Wales, Huldah now lives at the Nala Retirement Village at Lake Macquarie with her husband Joe. In her early days, she often went camping with girlfriends at an Aboriginal sacred site, the Mutwinji Snake Cave to the northwest of Broken Hill. Marrying late in life, Huldah took her husband to visit the area and was so shocked at the desecration wrought by visitors that she was inspired to write her poem.
Rest then beside the mushroom rock. Close your mind against the day. Surrender will until the snake spell takes you back into the dreaming.
That short excerpt is from a narrative poem which takes the listener on a journey of discovery into the cave, contemplation and then a reflective departure. It was a shock second place getter in the Banjo Patterson poetry competition. What makes Huldah all the more remarkable is that she is now almost blind, but plans to write and publish more.
I don't write straight off the cuff as poets are supposed to do. I go back and I revise and find a better word or a better idea.
The publication is being launched at the Von Berto Gallery in Newcastle this evening.
The Metropolitan Players are about to bring Little Abner to Newcastle University's Drama Theatre in more than Technicolor. It's a singing, dancing hoot of a good time, starring Chris Kelly as the strapping but unromantic Little Abner. The story hinges on Daisy May's chase for Abner's hand in marriage, but that's not the only drama he faces. The government decides his hometown of Dogpatch is unnecessary and suitable for atom bomb testing. To top it off, a senator is hatching a plot to snatch the yokumberry tonic forced on Abner all his life by his mother to make him strong and handsome. If you're curious as to how it all pans out, the show opens tonight and runs until December the 3rd.
After his defiant stand yesterday, Gadding's patience wore thin this morning. Kershler and Glassick claiming his wicket before a run was added. De Freitas was intent on aggression, but fell to the off-spin of Gavin Robinson for 11. 7 for 216 and the tourists continued to chase quick runs before Taylor took the new ball, Holsworth achieving instant results. Udall out for 9, followed by Craig White for 46. McNamara then rattled Malcolm's furniture, the Tourists setting the Blues 208 for victory from 70 overs. Taylor and Slater made a bright start, the home side none for 40 at lunch. The Aussie openers continued the onslaught in the second session, putting on 94 before Taylor was caught behind off Tufnell. 3 runs later and Mark Waugh was caught and bowled by Udall without scoring, but Bevan and Slater then steadied the innings, the latter playing shots all round the ground, moving into the 90s just before tea. A mini collapse followed, Slater out 6 short of his century, Bevan and McNamara trapped leg before, and the pace of Malcolm proving too much for Lee. Having lost 4 for 22, Maxwell and Glassick got the Blues home to repeat 1986's victory over England at No. 1 Sports Ground. Meantime, the Shield side to play Queensland at the SCG on Friday was announced today. Greg Matthews returning from the Wilderness, a selection welcomed by Test opener Michael Slater.
Oh, he's back in there, which is great. I mean, he's played superb cricket for New South Wales and he's back into the side now and hopefully can spin those balls out down at the SCG.
Oxley Water, which supplies the Greater Taree and Great Lakes areas, imposed a ban on fixed hoses late last month. Chief Water Engineer Greg Allen explained why the 60,000 residents will face tougher restrictions from Monday.
The Manning River has stopped flowing now once again when we're pumping. We're only able to pump 8 out of the 19 hours that we normally pump, and that's only giving us around about 10 megalitres a day.
Residents will only be allowed to use hoses held in the hand between 6 at night and 10 the next morning. Also disallowed will be the hosing of footpaths, paved areas and vehicles. Although the Bottawa Dam on the Manning River above Wingham is full, Oxley Water wants residents to preserve water for the summer tourist season when the area's population is expected to be boosted by 30,000 holidaymakers.
Community generally has cut back on its water use under our management program through this drought period, and the idea behind that has to be to make sure that we have our dam at full supply capacity for the coming tourist season. This is the normal situation for us, and we are hoping to have enough water available here for tourists to notice the minimum amount of impact from the drought.
The long-running dispute is over a reduction in prize money at Beaumont Park meetings. Owners and trainers boycotting several programs and in some cases forcing the controlling body, the Newcastle Jockey Club, to abandon them. Tomorrow's Greyhound meeting is one of the casualties, causing the NJC to reconsider the future of the sport at Beaumont Park. In response, the concerned Owners and Trainers Committee formalised a revitalised proposal last night. Its spokesperson, Jim Moody, refused to comment on camera today, and while he wouldn't reveal the proposal's contents, it's understood sponsorship gained by the group could be used to help restore prize money to its former amounts. The NJC hadn't studied the new initiative fully today, but was optimistic a resolution could be found. The two groups are likely to meet tomorrow, with the Owners and Trainers Committee to report back to its members next Thursday.
As I said, I flowed on from there. Everyone seemed to get more confident in the way they were swimming, and everyone was swimming well. And we were beating the Americans. and they didn't know what happened. You know, they were really shocked on how well we were.
Statement from you. Again, as I said, your premise is that bandits can take certain hours. Service stations, 20.
Today's workshop brought together council, state government and community representatives for discussion about a long-term management plan for the tip.
This site is in the centre of the Coffs Harbour koala population. It has all the features that koalas use in Coffs Harbour, and it's part of a link between it, but it's a net exporter of koalas and always has been.
Chris Moon estimates at least a dozen koalas live in forest at the depot and says it's habitat too important to risk.
The logical thing to do would be to expand it in this direction, and that would certainly eliminate a couple of the koalas that are in there, at least two of them, and they may be key animals, I can't say, but it would certainly take away the major drought refuge, which is what makes this site so important.
It's this sort of input which will now help council decide what to do at the site.
Council's looking at its Singlands Road Waste Management Facility and is doing an EIS through its consultants to establish a long-term use of that site and also to prepare a management plan for the use of that site.
But last night, council had development of another kind on the agenda. Development application fees are set to rise, council approving increases ranging from 4% to 39% for $300,000 projects. Councillor David Berry says the big increases for high-cost developments are a reflection of doing business in the 90s.
Today, with the extent of consultation and the extent of reporting that's needed and advising communities, advising the various state government agencies of activities, it's a whole more complex issue, especially when you get into bigger projects.